Hello, dear. I'm your Nana Grace, and today I'm going to tell you my story of today. I woke up before the sun, the way I often do now, not because I want to, but because sleep doesn't stay long when memories know where to find you. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels polite on the surface but heavy underneath, as if the walls themselves are holding their breath. I lay there for a moment, listening to the clock tick, counting seconds like they mattered, and wondering why mornings feel harder than nights lately. Nights at least expect sadness. Mornings pretend everything is fine. I got out of bed slowly, careful not to make noise even though no one else was there. Old habits linger long after their purpose is gone. I padded into the kitchen, turned on the light, and immediately wished I hadn't. Brightness can be cruel when your heart hasn't woken up yet. I filled the kettle, set it on the stove, and reached automatically for 2 cups from the cupboard. I always do that, every morning. 2 cups, 2 plates, 2 forks. And every morning there's a pause when I realize what I've done, and I stand there holding an extra cup like it's evidence of something I refuse to admit.
As the kettle began to warm, a thought slipped into my mind without asking permission. A name. Soft, familiar, heavy. The name no one in my family says anymore. It wasn't always like this. There was a time when that name was the most spoken word in our house. It floated through rooms, followed by laughter, followed by sighs, followed by love. It was said casually, carelessly, joyfully. We never imagined the day to come when saying it would feel dangerous, like stepping on thin ice. I remember when that name was first chosen, how we said it out loud again and again, testing how it sounded with our last name, how it felt rolling off the tongue. We wrote it down on scraps of paper, circled it, underlined it. We smiled every time we said it, because names are promises, and at that moment the future still felt generous. Back then, our house was loud. Doors slammed, music played, conversations overlapped. Silence was rare and welcome. Now silence is constant and unwanted. It sits in corners. It waits at the table. It follows us from room to room like a shadow that knows all our secrets.
The day the name disappeared didn't arrive with thunder. It arrived quietly, cruelly polite. A hospital hallway painted in colors meant to calm people who will never be calm again. Chairs bolted to the floor. A clock that ticked too loudly, as if mocking the idea that time was still moving. I remember staring at the floor tiles because looking up felt impossible. I remember someone saying words that sounded rehearsed, gentle, distant. I remember nodding, even though nothing made sense. After that day, we went home, because that's what people do when the worst thing imaginable has already happened. We sat on the couch. We drank water we didn't taste. We stared at walls we had looked at our entire lives, now strangers. And without discussing it, without voting, without agreeing, we stopped saying the name. At first, it felt respectful, like giving space to something sacred. We told ourselves we were protecting each other. We believed silence was kindness. We believed avoiding the name would keep the pain from waking up.
But pain doesn't sleep. It waits. At dinner, conversations became careful. We talked about safe things, news headlines, recipes, appointments. We learned how to dance around absence. If someone almost mentioned her, the sentence would change mid-breath. Pronouns replaced names. She became that. Her became before. Language twisted itself into knots, trying not to touch the truth. I watched my mother perfect the art of distraction. I saw my father grow quieter, his words fewer, his pauses longer. I felt my husband's hand squeeze mine whenever he sensed my chest tightening, a silent plea not to go there. Everyone was trying to protect everyone else, and in doing so, we all became alone. Grief settled into routines. It showed up in small, relentless ways. In the drawer I couldn't open, in the clothes I couldn't give away, in the way I avoided certain aisles at the store, in the nights when sleep came in fragments, breaking apart as soon as dreams dared to form. And always, always, there was the name. Unspoken, uninvited, unforgotten.
It's 3 in the morning. When the world was quiet enough to be honest, I said it in my head, over and over, like a confession, like a rebellion, like a prayer whispered to a ceiling that had heard everything already. I wondered if saying it made me weak, or selfish, or cruel. I wondered if love had an expiration date, if remembering too much meant refusing to move forward. Years passed this way. Time did what it always does. It kept going, whether we were ready or not. People around us healed in ways that looked convincing. They smiled more. They laughed again. They spoke about the future. But every time someone said, "You're doing so well," I felt a strange guilt, as if surviving meant I had abandoned something sacred. One night, during a storm that rattled windows and shook trees, the power went out. The house fell into darkness so complete it felt like stepping into another world. I lit a candle and sat alone at the table, watching the flame flicker, listening to rain hammer against the roof. There was no television, no phone, no noise to hide behind. Just me and the truth. And without planning to, without permission, I said the name out loud.
My voice cracked. The sound startled me. It felt both wrong and necessary, like pressing on a bruise just to prove it's still there. I waited for something terrible to happen, for the pain to explode, for the ground to give way. Instead, I cried. Not the sharp, panicked crying of early loss, but a slow, deep release, as if my body had been holding its breath for years and finally remembered how to exhale. I realized then that avoiding the name hadn't protected the love. It had trapped it, locked it in a room with no windows, no air. That night changed something in me, not loudly, not dramatically, but enough. I still don't say the name easily. I still feel the room shift when I think about speaking it aloud in front of others. But I've stopped believing that silence is the same as strength. I've stopped believing that healing means forgetting.
Love doesn't vanish just because we stop naming it. It waits, patient, faithful, hoping. Maybe you're listening to this because your family has a name like this too. A name that tightens throats. A name that ends conversations. A name wrapped in warnings and glances and let's not. If so, hear me when I say this. Remembering is not betrayal. Speaking a name is not reopening a wound. It's cleaning it. Silence doesn't mean peace. Sometimes it just means loneliness shared quietly. You don't have to shout the name. You don't have to force it into rooms that aren't ready. But you're allowed to hold it gently in your heart. You're allowed to say it in the dark. You're allowed to let it live. Thank you for sitting with me today. Thank you for listening without turning away. For letting this name exist again. If only here, if only now. I'm Nana Grace, and this is Echo of Nana Grace. In the next story, I'll tell you something even more fragile, something I've never said out loud before. A story called If I Could Hold You for Just 60 Seconds. A story about imagination,
about longing, about the strange ways our hearts try to heal when reality refuses to cooperate. If this story found you, please like this video, leave a comment, even a single word, and subscribe to Echo of Nana Grace, so these stories don't have to be carried alone. Good night, dear. Some names are whispered, but they are never gone.